one thing one should ask is it really reasonable to suppose that church members are now to imitate Jesus? Now think what it would be like to be eternal God. And one day you decide, I'm going to be very humble and become a man. Is that even reasonable? Is it not much more reasonable to look at the life of the human Messiah, who he was in the beginning, and copy his lifestyle? That seems to be much more practical as a teaching method. The topic in hand here is Messiah Jesus. First I have to take a huge leap and say, well, Messiah Jesus to a Jew means God. That's simply wrong. We'll talk about the man Messiah Jesus, if I may import from 1 Timothy 2:5.
Oh, yes.
There's one God the Father, and that's 1,300 times in the New Testament, God is the Father. And there's one man Messiah Jesus. So let's start with that. The man Messiah Jesus, and the word although is not in the Greek. Being, as right, not existing, NSV, that gives it an extra little push towards Trinity and pre-existence. But being as he was, in the form of God, the image of God, he's representing God. And he's saying always, if you've seen me, you've seen God in action. Doesn't mean I am God, but I'm the perfect agent of God. He has the status of God. I think that's the way to go. He does have a likeness to God. Equality is a little strong.
Sure.
The NIV here is completely and plainly wrong, which says being in very nature God. That's simply to read Trinitarianism into the text. But he does have a likeness to God. If you've seen me, you've seen God, he says. That's a very high claim. But he doesn't use that enormous status that he has for his own exploitation. He doesn't exploit that. Rather, he washes the dishes. Now, isn't that a practical model for us? Rather than saying, well, he was God from eternity and decided one day to become man, which is completely irrelevant to our thinking. It didn't start in heaven. There's nothing about starting in heaven here. That's being read into the text.
Absolutely.
And then the translation, obviously NIV is quite wrong there, but it isn't even although he existed. Ipachon is not proipachon. It's a perfectly good Greek word for pre-existing.
Yes.
We know that. Understand a pre-existing condition. You go to the doctor, you've already got the disease. That's quite clear. But how does a person pre-exist himself? Pray tell. Explain that to me. No. Being, as he was, in fact, as the Messiah, coming into being in Mary's womb, not although, but just being as he was in the status of God, he goes from the royal king, who could in fact command the world right there, to washing their feet. Now that's a model that I can comprehend. But if he's a human being, suffering the same temptations exactly as we do, then this eases the so-called problem of the incarnation immediately. Verse 7, people might wonder, he's being. The verb there is simply just coming into existence. He's not moving from a previous life, but he simply begins to be in the likeness of man. Ah, there you see. He's not really a man. He's like man. No, in what sense is Jesus different from us? He was sinless.
Of course.
He appears to be just a regular guy, you know.
That's right.
When they're looking for him, where's he gone? Oh, he's disappeared.
That's right.
There's nothing spectacular about his appearance. And the thing about emptying, I think we should tell our listeners here, it's Isaiah 53:12 says, he poured out himself in sacrifice. That's the self-emptying. And Paul himself says that Paul, is doing it later in the same letter. Paul is pouring out himself.
He's going to do the same thing, that's right.
And people might say, well, you're saying that Jesus isn't God. Well, wait a minute. I don't think you're saying that Jesus is a man. Because you don't know that your creed requires that you say that Jesus is man. You are not to say, as a Trinitarian, that Jesus is a man. Excuse me, I see him as a man. The real miracle is not pre-existing yourself. It's very hard to even unpack that idea if people would think about it.